case we don't know.
Right. I'll be sitting down. Have a seat.
So, Secretary Mrs. Vilsack, Ambassador Quinn, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, government officials, development professionals, honored guests, good afternoon and welcome to the United States State Department. I'm Charles Rivkin, the Assistant Secretary of State for Economic and Business Affairs, and I'm honored once again to host this year's announcement ceremony of the World Food Prize Laureate. But before I begin, I want to pass along the best wishes of my boss, Secretary of State John Kerry. He sends his deepest regrets, but he's out of the country right now and can't be here today. I'm sure you've seen the press and know where he is. But on his behalf, I want to welcome everyone to a ceremony that has become a long-standing partnership between the State Department and the World Food Prize Foundation. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th year that we have hosted the prize announcement at State together. So please join me in recognizing Ambassador Kenneth Quinn, President of the World Food Prize Foundation. We deeply value all our partners in this goal, so let me take a moment as well to thank all those who honor us today here with their presence and their support. That includes my colleague Nancy Stetson, Secretary Kerry's Special Representative for Global Food Security, members of Congress, and all the members of the diplomatic corps and the public and private sectors. I'm also delighted to see my friend, Julie Borlaug, who's flown in from Texas today to be here, carrying on the vital work of her grandfather, Norman Borlaug. We all share so many of the same goals and principles, and they include an unwavering commitment to reducing hunger and malnutrition and to lifting men and women out of poverty. We also recognize how food security is inextricably linked and related to critical issues like climate change, political stability, and human and economic development. We know that when the global community can feed itself, it can lift economies, open up futures, and address the critical issues of our time. Ultimately, food security helps us all thrive in a more secure and productive environment. And that's why the U.S. government works to improve lives by focusing on the role that science and technology and good policy play in reducing hunger and malnutrition. And I'm especially proud to lead my Bureau's efforts to support and recognize the important contribution that agriculture plays in economic development. In that capacity, I was delighted to attend the Borlaug Dialogue in Des Moines last October. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to see a powerful representation of the global community. Some of them are here today, who work here every day to address the challenges of feeding the world. And that commitment was exemplified by the 2014 laureate, Dr. Sanjaya Rajaran, who was recognized for his achievements in wheat breeding. Now, Iowa has always, as the ambassador knows, Iowa's always had a personal resonance for me, as I spent my summers there as a boy, and my extended family has deep roots in Iowa agriculture, and my father was born and raised in Muscatine. So it was truly meaningful for me to join a farmer in central Iowa and sit in the buddy seat of his John Deere S670 combine harvester and watch him work. Now, we were moving through these cornfields, I'll never forget it, as his combine gathered and husked and shelled 12 rows of corn at a time, turning them into bushels of instant grain. And unlike when I was a kid, I saw that in his climate-controlled, beautiful cabin, he checked his progress with onboard computers and GPS technology, and that helped him deposit seed and fertilizer precisely, and even showed him if he missed a single ear of corn. And while he was doing this, the farmer spoke to me about the importance of the international markets for American agriculture, and how he had once hosted President Xi Jinping of China at his farm, and in fact, President Xi was sitting in the exact same buddy seat as I was when he came. In just one ride on the combine, I saw a farmer using technology to enhance his livelihood and engaged fully within the global economy. And I got a firsthand sense of the depth and of the scope of American agriculture and American agricultural technology. And in my work, I see our commitment to food security, and I see how it plays out in so many ways. The Obama administration, for example, has undertaken a set of programs to reduce global hunger and reduce undernutrition. We've worked to increase private investment in Africa, in African agriculture, and we focused on climate-smart agricultural methods. Our Feed the Future initiative supports the efforts of 19 countries to improve their agricultural sectors, and we've seen dramatic results: rising incomes, improved nutrition, and a threefold increase in smallholder farm sales since the previous year. Food security even plays on the trade front. I'm sure everybody here has heard about the passage of TPA, the Trade Promotion Authority, last week, which will move us closer to the completion of two big trade deals, the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. And these deals will not only lower impediments to trade in agricultural goods, they'll set new standards for greater and greater opening of agricultural trade globally. And I'm pleased to note that food is the focus at the 2015 Milan Expo, which is attended by millions of visitors. And this year's theme is Feeding the Planet, Energy for Life. And our USA Pavilion, which includes exhibits, programs, a website, and social media, is showing what we are doing to contribute to global food security, sustainability, and nutrition. And it will also showcase the innovation and the cutting-edge research that helps us respond to challenges such as climate change, pressure on water and land resources, and population growth. Our commitment to feeding the world, addressing world hunger, and ultimately improving lives continues. And I'm reminded of a quote from Dr. Norman Borlaug, founder of the World Food Prize. Dr. Borlaug once said, "If you desire peace, cultivate justice, but at the same time cultivate the fields to produce more bread. Otherwise, there will be no peace." And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Ambassador Kenneth Quinn. During his diplomatic career, stretching more than 30 years, Ambassador Quinn has served in many capacities, including as a rural development advisor in the Mekong Delta, on the National Security Council staff at the White House, and for the U.S. State Department as Deputy Assistant Secretary, Deputy Chief of Mission, and ultimately Ambassador, all throughout Indochina. In all his years of service, Ambassador Quinn has shown consistent dedication to pursuing justice and alleviating human suffering. And now in his 16th year as President of the World Food Prize Foundation, he has worked tirelessly to address hunger and poverty by recognizing significant achievements in agriculture and in nutrition. Ladies and gentlemen, my great pleasure to introduce to you Ambassador Quinn.
Well, thank you, Ambassador Rivkin. So wonderful to see everyone here today. If Secretary Kerry were here, he would probably note that he and I served at the same place in the Mekong Delta during the Vietnam War in Sadek, that's an interesting connection. But the other interesting connection is the Southeast Iowa connection, because Secretary Vilsack is from the southeast corner of Iowa, around Mount Pleasant. You just heard Ambassador Rivkin say that his dad was from Muscatine. Some of you may know that President Xi Jinping has a special connection to Iowa and to Muscatine as well. I think considers it something of a second hometown for himself. I'm from Dubuque, up the river from Muscatine. But the other, and I think we have some friends here from the World Bank, that President Jim Yong Kim is also from Muscatine. So there's a special connection here. You all thought he was from Seoul, I know. But he played quarterback for the Muskies in Muscatine. So thank you so much, Ambassador Rivkin, for your kind introduction. On behalf of our chairman, John Ruan, and the Ruan family, they're so sorry they had a family wedding and couldn't be here today, but convey our gratitude for you for again hosting our ceremony here. We feel so privileged to do this, and for your address last October at the World Food Prize. And on a personal note, I want you to know you have my unending admiration for you and your family's role in establishing the Rivkin Award through the American Foreign Service Association to inspire intellectual courage among American diplomats. And I want to thank Eric Luffman and members of your staff who have done such a great job working with Catherine Swoboda and Ed Redfern of my team to make all this happen. Secretary Vilsack, it's such a great honor to have you here. You're obviously a big draw. I think this is the biggest, well, don't tell Secretary Kerry I said this, but I think this is the biggest crowd we've had for one of these ceremonies ever. And Mrs. Christy Vilsack, we're so pleased you could be here, given the leadership you're providing at USAID on international educational issues, including educational opportunities for girls and young women. And I want to especially acknowledge all of the ambassadors, diplomats, international organization representatives who are here. Your Excellencies, you honor us with your presence. And your being here is very meaningful because our prize is an international prize. It's been given to laureates from around the globe. And I want to encourage all of you to please submit further nominations for it. And we're pleased that one of those laureates is here, David Beckman. David, hold your hand up over here, the 2010 laureate. And next to him is Peter McPherson, who's a member of our Council of Advisors. Peter, thank you. Peter and I first met in 1986 when he was the administrator of USAID in the Reagan administration, and I was working up on the 7th floor. So, Mrs. Barbara Grassley, the wife of Senator Chuck Grassley. Thank you, Mrs. Grassley. Please stand up for that. So, for being here. And next to her is former Congressman Jim Leach, also from sort of southeast Iowa, from Davenport. Jim, thank you. And Nancy Stetson. Nancy, wonderful for you to be here, our Secretary's Global Food Security Advisor. And please convey to the Secretary our hope for his full recovery from his accident. So, you know, the Secretary has been here the last 2 years for our event, and he's always noted the enormous respect he had for our founder, Dr. Norman Borlaug, the Nobel Peace Prize laureate who started the World Food Prize. And I'm so delighted Julie Borlaug has flown up, not Secretary Kerry's granddaughter, Norman Borlaug's granddaughter. So Julie, thank you for being here. The former Undersecretary of the UN and Ambassador Lynn Pascoe, my classmate, is here. Ambassador Allen as well here. So thank you, former American ambassadorial colleagues who are here. So Dr. Borlaug started the World Food Prize in 1986 to be the equivalent of the Nobel Prize for Food and Agriculture, and to recognize, inspire breakthrough achievements that we're going to need to be able to feed the 9+ billion people who will be on our planet. And in the past 29 years, 40 individuals from 14 countries and the UN have received our $250,000 prize. And they're an array of scientists, policy advocates, political leaders, innovators in a wide range of specializations, plant and soil science to irrigation, food processing and storage, to biotechnology. But the common thread which unites all of the laureates is that they had done something unique or unprecedented that has impacted the lives of thousands and millions of people, reducing hunger by increasing the quality, the quantity, the availability of food in the world. And today, we will name the 41st World Food Prize laureate. The chairman of our laureate selection committee is Dr. M.S. Swaminathan of India, probably the most revered agricultural scientist on the planet. And he described our 2015 laureate as, quote, a strategic thinker, a man with a future vision, as a person who has been an innovator and pioneer in the development sector for over 40 years, a man whose mission began as a temporary relief effort following a devastating typhoon and then his country's war for independence, but which quickly evolved into a long-term and multidimensional endeavor that now employs over 100,000 people to implement a broad spectrum of programs in a wide array of areas, including microfinance, health, education, human rights, agriculture, programs that have expanded from his home country to 10 other countries in Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean. And in agriculture, under our laureate's leadership, the organization he created impacts more than 1 million farmers each year through making credit available to smallholders, innovative poultry and dairy programs, and disseminating advanced hybrid seed technology. And the new crop varieties his agricultural research center produces enables farmers to increase yields, grow crops in marginal areas, and deal with the new challenges they will face from increased climate volatility, such as saltwater intrusion, flooding, and drought. And I know those are topics that both of you and Secretary Kerry focus on a great deal. And our laureate's goal is to change poor subsistence farmers, the majority of them women, into commercially viable business operators, generating greater income through increased harvest and lifting themselves and their families out of poverty. The bottom line is that in more than 4 decades, under his leadership, his organization has enhanced food security and provided the opportunity for a pathway out of poverty for up to as many as 150 million people. And at the heart of this endeavor has been the central principle that our laureate identified as the key to uplifting the ultra-poor, that women need to be the agents of change, and that education is a key to their taking charge of their lives. And to this end, his foundation operates over 38,000 schools in which over 1 million children are educated. Now, at a time when the world confronts that imminent challenge of feeding 9 billion people, the organization our laureate founded and leads has created the preeminent model being followed around the globe on how to educate girls, empower women, and lift whole generations out of poverty. That organization is BRAC, the largest nonprofit organization in the world, headquartered in our laureate's home country of Bangladesh. And that individual who founded and has led BRAC for 43 years to such extraordinary achievements, and as such, truly deserves recognition as the 2015 World Food Prize laureate, is Sir Fazle Hassan Abed. Now, we're so honored that Sir Fazle's daughter, Tamara Abed, could be here today with her husband, Asif Saleh. They're both senior directors of BRAC. Please stand up so we can see you. So please send an email to your dad and tell him that you were here and that there was a wonderful response when we announced that he'll be joining the pantheon of distinguished World Food Prize laureates who have led the single greatest period of food production and hunger reduction in human history. And we're so pleased to have Minister Sahabuddin Patwari of the Embassy of Bangladesh present at this ceremony. And Your Excellency, I want to acknowledge the very significant progress that your country has made toward attaining the Millennium Development Goals, and which has just been recognized by the United Nations. And I want to extend the warmest welcome to everyone to join us in Des Moines, October 14 to 16. You already heard from Ambassador Rivkin what a great time it is, as we present our prize to Sir Fazle and hold our Borlaug Dialogue Symposium and our Global Youth Institute. Now, this year marks the 101st anniversary of Norman Borlaug's birth. So we came up with the theme for this. Where's Catherine Swoboda? Catherine and I were sitting around, there she is back there, and said, what should we do? So we've entitled it Borlaug 101. a course in fundamentals of global food security. So you'll get a brochure as you leave, and you look in, you'll see we've assembled an exceptional faculty, and at the head of that will be the keynote given by His Excellency Paul Kagame, the President of Rwanda, and we're going to have a sharp focus on girls, education, and encouraging young women to pursue careers in STEM, with Chelsea Clinton and Cheryl Wu Dunn speaking, and a panel moderated by Catherine Bertini, our 2003 laureate. So everybody else, if you're not emailing Sir Fazle, go to our website, worldfoodprize.org/register, because if all's right, it should now be available for you to sign up so you can attend. So I now have the singular honor and great personal privilege to introduce our featured speaker at this ceremony, U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack. You know, I first met then Governor Vilsack in 2000 when I started this job. We didn't know each other, and I came up to his office at the Capitol, and we discussed how we could work together to advance the legacy of a man who was a hero to both of us, Norman Borlaug. And since then, I've watched and witnessed Governor Vilsack and then Secretary Vilsack provide truly inspirational leadership on an array of issues that were of great significance to Norman Borlaug, including his emphasizing the importance of good nutrition and healthy eating through his inspiring call to action, which he delivered in 2005 at the World Food Prize, when not very many people were talking about that subject. And then joining with two former Iowa Republican governors to create the Iowa Hunger Summit in honor of Dr. Borlaug to combat hunger at home. Championing at USDA the school feeding program started by two World Food Prize laureates, Senator Bob Dole and the late Senator George McGovern. Signing the most significant U.S.-China Strategic Agricultural Cooperation Agreement in 2012 at our World Food Prize Hall of Laureates. And I know Dr. Borlaug was especially grateful to Secretary Vilsack for his leadership in inspiring the next generation of young leaders through the USDA Borlaug Fellows Program, World Food Prize Borlaug-Rouen interns, and our joint endeavor, the Wallace Carver Fellows Program. And I know some of them alums or current members of that are here. Raise your hand if you're a Borlaug-Rouen or a Wallace Carver Fellow. Where are the students? Okay, you're over here, some over here. So glad that you could be here today. And but my most poignant memory of Secretary Vilsack came on March 25th of last year, on the 100th anniversary of Dr. Borlaug's birth, when we were together in the U.S. Capitol as the statue of Dr. Borlaug was unveiled in Statuary Hall. And Secretary Vilsack gave very, very stirring remarks. And as I sat there and I watched and I saw the statue of Norm and I saw Secretary Vilsack, it became clear to me that through his leadership as governor, then secretary, one of the longest-serving secretaries of agriculture in modern history, no one has done more than Tom Vilsack to carry forward Norman Borlaug's vision and fulfill his dreams. So, ladies and gentlemen, United States Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack.
Thank you very much. Well, Ambassador Quinn, thank you very, very much. Certainly have appreciated our friendship and our work together to focus on the World Food Prize and certainly carry out the great legacy of Dr. Borlaug and the vision of John Ruan, another great Iowan who also very much involved in making this day possible. Certainly appreciate the Ruan family support for the World Food Prize. And Ambassador, nice to see you again. You were kind enough to welcome me as a secretary and perhaps joining over 2,000 other people's gardens that were established when you were the ambassador in France. And I will always remember that wonderful walk through that beautiful garden that you all produced there. So I appreciate you being here. And lots of distinguished guests. Certainly would want to acknowledge Julie Borlaug in particular because of the great work the Borlaug family has done in promoting and opportunities for people around the world. Certainly a proud legacy that she continues and the Borlaug family continues. And today I have the privilege of honoring Safazli Abed, an individual who's made his life's work to lift millions of people around the world out of poverty. As Ambassador Quinn has indicated, this is a man who has been instrumental in inspiring and empowering countless young women and girls. His work is an inspiration to all of us, and I would say he is extraordinarily deserving of this honor being awarded today and to be formalized in October. He was born into a distinguished family in Bangladesh. He was fortunate enough to attend a good school. He grew up to become a successful business person. He was really good at his job. I suspect he was living happily and probably comfortably. He was living what many would consider the dream life. Things could easily have gone on like that for the rest of his life, but in the early 1970s, something happened that changed his life and the lives of millions forever. More than 3 million people died in the aftermath of a devastating tropical cyclone and a 9-month war of independence from Pakistan. Hundreds of thousands of people were displaced and further impoverished. In the aftermath of these tragic events, he heard the call of his country, and he answered. He resigned his job, gave up the surety of a steady paycheck and a comfortable life, and as Ambassador Quinn indicated, he formed BRAC, which was initially known as the Bangladesh Rehabilitation Assistance Committee. That BRAC was helped and designed to aid and recover opportunity in his homeland. Now, over the time, the name of that organization has changed and its mission has evolved, but its core mission has not. BRAC is about inspiring and empowering. It has brought and continues to bring hope and the promise of opportunity to rural communities, and particularly to young women around the world. We're here to honor him today, but more broadly, we are here today because we all face a crucial challenge in figuring out how to feed a growing global population in a sustainable way. The reality is that we have 9 billion people coming down the pike, and it's going to take everything that we can collectively do to adequately feed all of these folks, especially in a world where even today over 800 million are undernourished. Global food security is not an insular discussion. It impacts all nations and all of us. And all nations have a role to play in supporting agricultural growth and driving the innovation necessary to survive. Greater access to innovative tools and technologies, many of them developed here in the U.S., will allow farmers and ranchers and producers around the world to produce more, to increase access to food, to reduce food waste, and ultimately provide ladders of opportunity with improved incomes for people in rural areas around the world. Now, we all must continue to drive critical research, something that Dr. Borlaug understood, and that research which leads to exploration and innovation. At USDA, for example, we've sequenced recently the genome of wheat, something that I suspect Dr. Borlaug would have been quite interested in. And the wheat stem rust pathogen, an important opportunity for us to combat a serious disease which threatens to destroy wheat crops worldwide. And we're distributing this new germplasm globally in order to reduce the risks of unproductive harvests. We have to work together to identify more breakthroughs and to expand the benefits to everyone. That's why programs like the Borlaug Fellowship are so critically important. Over the past 6 years, the Borlaug Fellowship program has provided training and collaborative research opportunities to more than 440 scientists and policymakers from developing and middle-income countries. Now, their training is focused on a wide range of agriculture-related topics, including veterinary science, nutrition, food safety, sanitary and phytosanitary issues, natural resource management, and biotechnology. The idea is that they take this knowledge and information back to their home countries and implement better policies and practices. This kind of information sharing is extraordinarily valuable because it increases the value of investments taxpayers in this country and around the world have made in agricultural research. It also creates a data ecosystem that fuels economic growth and helps to drive agricultural innovation needed to meet our global food security challenge. Data, all of this information we've acquired through groundbreaking research and investigation, is and will continue to be a critical factor as we continue to push for greater innovation around the world. 2 years ago, the U.S., along with the U.K., launched the Global Open Data for Agriculture and Nutrition Initiative. This seeks to support global efforts to make agriculture and nutritionally relevant data available, accessible, and usable for unrestricted use worldwide. We continue to push for more open access and the sharing of data, something that Secretary Kerry and previous Secretary of State Clinton supported. Research breakthroughs, best practices that can be expanded throughout the world. And we're looking forward to joining with other nations as partners to take on these challenges collectively and collaboratively. That's something the U.S. always takes seriously. The Milan Expo, which has recently been mentioned by the Ambassador, one of the world's largest opportunities to celebrate the important role that food plays in our lives. And this year, the U.S. has a major presence. The Expo's theme addresses a key concern for all of us in the room today. How do we get more food-secure, nourished world in a sustainable way? This is essential to the long-term prosperity of individuals, economies, communities, and nations, and indeed, as the Ambassador indicated, promotes global stability. So the presence at the Expo obviously showcases our commitment here in the U.S. to global food security, and it is a priority of this government and of this President. U.S. policy initiatives develop more productive and sustainable ways to produce food on land and in the ocean, and we're contributing to more resilient systems. Since the early days of this administration, President Obama, former Secretary of State Clinton, and now Secretary Kerry have emphasized the commitment to a U.S. leadership role in food security issues. From the G7 commitment to sustainable global food security in 2009 came our Feed the Future program and the U.S. government-wide investment of over $3.25 billion. In 2012, the President rallied a group of global leaders at Camp David to launch the new Alliance for Food Security and Nutrition, which is focused on improving and increasing public-private partnerships in this space to leverage new investments in agricultural systems, something that our Food Prize Laureate would certainly appreciate. That commitment has now leveraged an investment of over $10 billion from more than 200 companies. The majority of them are African firms or farmer-owned businesses. And last year, the U.S. was one of the founding members of the Global Alliance for Climate-Smart Agriculture. And this is a knowledge platform for taking stock of ongoing agricultural practices and adaptation techniques in light of a changing climate. And we're sharing our information with partners around the globe. If we're going to meet the global food challenge, we've got to figure out ways in which we can continue to produce more with less, because the climate is indeed changing. Weather patterns are more intense. There will be greater challenges to where things are grown and how things are grown. We have to continue to push for a healthy respect and reverence for science and innovation. And we have to do a better job, an even better job, of using our land and water resources so that we can produce more food while also reducing food waste and post-harvest loss to make full advantage and take full advantage of the food that we do grow. Now, we have to work together to figure out how we can help folks be more economically secure through agriculture. How can we work together to reduce global poverty and malnutrition through more productive agriculture? How can we help everyone feed their own people, create stronger middle classes, and a much, much safer world? These are issues that our World Prize Laureate has dedicated his life to addressing, and for good reason, because it takes substantial increases in innovation and investment to address these challenges. Now, some have estimated that it will take as much innovation in agriculture in the next 40 years as in the preceding 10,000 years if we're to meet the demand for food. Now, in order to do this, we obviously need everyone at the table, particularly women, because the fact is women are the world's primary food producers. Women comprise, on average, 43% of the global agricultural labor force in developing countries, but tend to work longer hours than men. Of course, that's probably no secret. Control less land than men, and unfortunately have poor access to credit and agricultural extension services. Young women here in the United States, some daughters and granddaughters of farmers, but not all, are going to ag schools in record numbers. Minority producers are also a fast-growing aspect of American agriculture. So there is an opportunity here in the U.S. to provide leadership in this area of women in agriculture by providing and encouraging more diversity in our farming and in our agricultural research. In that spirit, we worked with Ambassador Quinn to establish the Wallace Carver Fellowship in 2011. Named after Henry A. Wallace and George Washington Carver, two great American leaders with very serious and significant Iowa connections, leaders in agricultural science who fought hard to end hunger in the 20th century, the fellowship was created by USDA and the World Food Prize Foundation. And through this opportunity, students are given the chance to work side by side with globally recognized scientists and policymakers through their summer breaks from school. The fellowship has given over 110 outstanding participants from 28 different states in the District of Columbia extraordinary life-changing educational experiences and opportunities in a multiple area of study. This year, I'm proud to say that more than 60% of this year's fellows are exceptional young women, and 32% are racial and ethnic minorities. There are 31 fellows today working at USDA, although I suspect most of them are here, so maybe they're not working, they're listening. But I'm sure they feel proud and honored to have been selected to participate in the Wallace Carver Fellowship. But it is us who should feel honored to have them next to us as we learn from them as well. I applaud each of them for their dedication and commitment and their passion, and I hope that each of them brings that drive and passion to future careers in agriculture. So USDA is pushing to expand opportunity all over the world, including on our own soil. And that's important because giving opportunities to the next generation is how we will ensure that our future is in great hands. We have to open the doors wide to new thinkers. That's why I think the World Food Prize is so important. It lifts up individuals who have improved the quality of life for millions of people by addressing one of the most important basic human needs, food. It inspires and empowers the next generation to commit their lives to agriculture and to fight against global hunger. But for me, the most important thing about the World Food Prize is it indicates the power of a single individual to make a difference. Dr. Borlaug, I suspect when he grew up as a young man in Iowa through a very tough economic time, probably never thought of himself as the savior of hundreds of millions of people. He thought of himself as a teacher and a scientist and a researcher, a farmer, somebody who understood the power of agriculture. And he committed his life with passion to making sure that he did everything he could with his life to improve the lives of others. That's what the World Food Prize is all about. That's why we're here today, to continue the tradition of acknowledging the power of a single individual to make a fundamental difference in the world. If each of us understands the power that we each have to make a difference, what a more secure, peaceful, and better world it would be. So thank you all for attending today, and I look forward to seeing you all in October in Iowa.
Well, thank you, Secretary Vilsack, for your words and for your presence here today. And I will say, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Secretary Kerry and Ambassador Quinn and the World Food Prize Foundation, I want to thank you for joining us today for the announcement of the 2015 World Food Prize Laureate. But before you go, I'd like to take a final moment to recognize our distinguished speakers, but also your own roles in contributing to food security worldwide. More and more, food security binds, concerns, and compels us all. So thank you for all that you do and all that you're going to continue to do. And you're invited to join us now for a reception just around the corner in the exhibit hall. We hope all of you can come. And if I could just ask a request that we let Secretary Vilsack and Ambassador Quinn get there first. But with that, thank you so much for being here, ladies and gentlemen.
So if you could just wait for a moment in the room. Yeah. Yeah. And so when you leave the room, you're going to go left, and then you're going to go down to the hallway and take a right.